Sisters and brothers, I'm Monty McIntyre. I'm a priest of this diocese, and I was 16 and a half years at Holy Cross. I'm now assisting at Calvary, and thanks to the kindness of Regis, I'm here with you this morning. So thank you, Regis. And thank you for not running away when you saw me. Sisters and brothers, first I want to say, the young woman, Anna Marie, who read that, wasn't she good? Where'd you go? That was spectacular. What is your passion in life? What sustains you when all else fails? Do you have an axis around which all else turns? Have your goals changed, changed over the years? In today's readings from the Philippians that Anna Marie read so well, we hear Paul declaring and even attempting to prove his unswerving passion for Jesus the Christ in his life. Now, we all remember Paul, right? I take nothing for granted. My other job is I teach at Duquesne University. I'm a teacher, so I just got to make sure we're still on all the same page. So if I say Paul, you don't think it's the guy across the street. Tell me a little bit about Paul. Who can tell me a little bit about Paul? Oh no. Okay, if I said the Damascus Road incident, would you remember that? You'd remember that? Okay, he was converted? Yeah, okay, all right. So that's the guy we're talking about, Paul. Big stuff. He has his name attached to a lot of letters in the New Testament. So in this passage, we are hearing him, in a sense, boast about how great he is, what he has done, how terrific he was attached to the law of Moses. Now, if I were looking for the law of Moses, where would I go? I would go to the Bible, and I would look at the first how many books? 5 books. There we go, also known as the Pentateuch, all that. Okay, so the law. And in there are more than 600 picky laws. Some of them less picky, a lot of them very picky. And what he says is, I kept every one. He says, and you can see it on the 4th line in your copy, he was, as to righteous under the law, what does it say? Blameless. Nobody did it better than I did. I am the greatest when it comes to keeping the law. He was so attached that he even persecuted Christians. That's when we read in Acts 9 and a couple other places about that Damascus Road incident. He was wonderful. When he persecuted Christians, it was a testimony to how totally and irreversibly he was fixed on the law. If it takes killing people, I will do it for the law, he says. He was, as we see here, blameless under the law. And he wants everybody to know that he was a tough act to follow. But something happened. What happened to him? He was on that Damascus Road, and he met the person of Jesus the Christ. And suddenly, nothing was the same. Over against the mass of privileges and allegiance associated with his former life, there is placed simply the person of Jesus the Christ. Just in knowing Christ made him give up everything about his former life, risk all to follow Jesus. Knowing Jesus turned his life upside down. He was willing to suffer as Jesus suffered. You know, there's a lot of crosses in a place like this. And they're not decorations. They are instruments of capital punishment of the day. And Jesus was willing to endure that, and Paul says, so am I. He was willing to suffer anything Jesus suffered for love of him. Knowing Jesus relativized the value of all his former ties. Everything he held dear was upturned so that he could freely and let them joyfully go, because all he needed to do was know Jesus. Sisters and brothers, today might be a good day for us to reflect upon that. What did knowing Jesus do for Paul? And what does knowing Jesus do for us? What is our commitment to Jesus the Christ? What difference does knowing Jesus make in our lives? Do we really even know Jesus? Are we, like Paul, willing to participate in the sufferings of Jesus? And what does this even mean? Most of us, if you're like me, we lead very busy lives. We rush here and there and take a little time to reflect upon our Christian identity. But today, Paul puts before us, right in front of our eyes, who is Jesus for us? What difference does being a Christian make? Sometimes it's the way things go. We reduce our Christian life to service projects, especially in the world we live in. That dramatic reading of those names, wasn't that something? Thank you, both. Puerto Rico, the Virgin Islands, Houston. There's no end. And so we run as fast as we can to do something about people in trouble. But sisters and brothers, the point is not to reduce our lives to service projects. We come to church, and God knows you all have, for 30 years, had this beautiful place. I mean, you didn't have this place. I know. I remember the old days across the hall. And you have worked so hard to maintain and sustain St. Brendan's. You have collected all kinds of money. You are selling tickets, you're selling cards, you're doing this, you're doing that, to make this place grow and thrive. It's a wonderful thing. You collect donations for various charities. You walk in the door, and that's what you're met with. You're collecting for here, and you're collecting for there, and do this and do that. And you arrive home exhausted sometimes, hoping to catch enough sleep to give us fuel for the next day. I believe, however, that our words from Paul are calling us to take some time to reflect upon his words. We may not have the kind of commitment he had to anything in our lives. We may not have been so dedicated, I'm from Detroit, to cars or model trains or anything else like he did. Then again, there might be something that has caught our fire and moved us to make it our priority. The question that I think Paul is raising for us today is, where is Jesus in all of this? We live in an age where mainstream Christianity seems to be losing its flavor. Why is that? What kind of Christian witness are we giving? Now, if you watch the news, you know that the Westboro Baptist Church came past Duquesne and CMU. And I'm not talking about that as Christian witness. Not at all. No. I am talking about genuine Christian witness. If our commitment to Jesus the Christ is merely lukewarm, then we cannot hope to make much difference in the primacy of Christianity for the world. Much of our Christian heritage we could lose. Much of it has been prejudicial, it's been horrible. But what parts of our Christian commitment need to remain? What is the stuff of Jesus in our church and churches that needs to stick around, that needs to last into the next and the next and the next generations? Sisters and brothers, the church needs to be more than another social club that raises money to sustain itself and to give to various charities. Those are worthy goals, but they are not enough if we call ourselves Christian. The very life-sustaining and life-challenging words of Paul get at the very heart of what we are doing here. Let us resolve today to stoke the smoldering fires of our commitment to Jesus the Christ and see what happens. We need organizations to help the poor. I know that St. Brendan's is more than that. And if it is, what is it? Again I ask, what is your passion in life? What sustains you when all else fails? Do you have an axis around which all else turns? Have your goals, like Paul's, changed over the years? Sisters and brothers, we were baptized into a revolution, not just something extra. Amen.